Let me introduce myself. My name is Yash, and I will be hosting this cloud bootcamp for you guys, where we will be talking about basics of cloud. I'm currently working as a cybersecurity analyst and trainer over InfosecTrain. I have a 2+ years of overall experience and specialty in software programming and cybersecurity. Over these years, I have worked for many organizations in their network architect and designing part, right, improving their network security. I have worked as a VAPT analyst also, right? So these days I'm mostly focused on cloud and application security, right? Before coming into cybersecurity part, I was working as a software developer, right? So over that area also, I have a pretty good knowledge around your programming languages. I have a keen interest in your AI and ML also. Talking about my certifications, I'm certified in A plus, Security plus, Network plus, CYSA plus from CompTIA vendor. Other than that, I'm certified in CEH certificate from EC Council, and I have various Azure certificates also. Talking about cloud part, so this will be all about me, right? Now let's talk about the agenda, that what we will be learning in this particular bootcamp, right? So agenda here is introduction to cloud computing, right? So this is for those persons who are getting started with cloud, right, who have zero knowledge of cloud. So we will start from the scratch, where we'll talk about what cloud is, what cloud computing is, different deployment services present over your cloud, different models, what are the benefits of your cloud computing, right? After that, we will be talking about different technologies related to your cloud, like your container technology, your virtualization, your Docker, microservices, serverless computing, right? So this will be your theoretical part, where you will get a good understanding that what cloud is, what are different services related to your cloud, right? And tomorrow we will try to learn some practical stuff, where we will learn what Azure is, your Azure model, and how you can create a virtual machine over a Azure environment. Okay, so we will be talking about a specific cloud environment, which is your Microsoft Azure. Now starting with the very basic part, that what cloud is, right? What cloud or cloud computing is, right? So let's think of it something like this. Let's say we want to create an organization. Okay, our first goal is to create an organization. What all things we'll be requiring to create a particular organization, right? That, okay, let's create an organization, right? So in that time, what all things you will remember, or you will require, that will help you to create your organization structure? First is your space, right? Renting a space where you can set up your organization, hire people. Okay, first important thing, right? One of the major thing that you will require is your hardware resource, hardware or your compute resource. Okay, because if I rent a space, right, first thing I will be needing is lots of desktop where people can actually work, right? So this is first important thing. Then I will be needing networking resources, right, so that I can connect different departments within my organization, right? Then I will be needing some storage part, right, where I can store the data that is present over my organization, right? That all the things related to your security, right, your policies, your procedures, your documentation, your management part, all the things will be part of your security. And next part will be your people working over there. Okay, people working in different environment. This is some of the basic requirement to create an organization. Okay, now here I have to spend a lot of things. Okay, I have to spend, if I talk about my capital investment, right, I have to spend on renting this particular space. Okay, I have to spend on this particular part. I have to spend on hardware, where I have to buy different hardware part, right? Different devices, so that I can use over my organization, right? So I will be needing these things. Maintenance also, right? Let's write it over here. Your maintenance. So I have to spend a lot of money over maintaining these resources, your storage part. Also, I will be needing some servers. Okay. Also, I will be needing some servers. Okay. This is your creating a physical organization. Okay, now what if I told you guys that all these things, all the things which we discussed over here is present over the internet? Okay, you can access all these things over the internet. That thing is your cloud computing. Okay, accessing all the resources which you require to set up an organization, okay, which is required over your IT department or your IT part, is cloud computing. If you can access these resources over the internet, your networking resource, your computing resource, right, your storage part, your servers part, right, if you can get security also over the cloud, maintenance part also over the internet, that thing will become cloud computing. Okay, so if we discuss or if we look at the definition of this particular part, right, on demand delivery of IT resources. Okay, on demand delivery of IT resources over the internet, this is very important though. Okay, when we talk about cloud computing, all the IT resources which is present over the organization, if you can access those resources over the internet, that is your cloud computing. So here the definition is on demand delivery of different IT resources over the internet, enabling faster innovation, flexible resources, and economies of scale. Okay, so here we are talking about three major factors, right, where we are talking about multiple resources. Okay, up to date resources, faster innovation means all the things which are latest, okay, up to date over the market. And last part is your cost. Okay, if you are getting all these IT resources over the internet with these three features, right, we can add more features, but these three common features, that is your cloud computing. Okay, so here they are talking about four major resources. One is your compute resource. Okay, one is your networking resource, one is your storage resource where you will be storing all those things, and last is your analytic, your AIML. Okay, these four resources, if we are getting over the internet at faster innovation, flexible resource, and economies of scale, that is your cloud computing. Now these are the top 10 cloud providers of 2021, right now we don't have a present list of 2022. So for last year these were the top 10 cloud service providers, right? At first we were having your AWS, your Amazon Web Service, right? This was the leading vendor to provide cloud service for different purposes. Then at second place we have your Microsoft Azure, and third your Google Cloud, right? These are the three major vendors. These are the three major vendors where you will see people using their services. Okay, other than these we have your Alibaba, your IBM, Oracle, Salesforce, SAP, Rackspace, VMware. Okay, these are your different cloud service providers where you can access different cloud services. Okay, why AWS is the top? Because AWS was the first organization. Okay, it was the first organization to provide cloud services to the customers. Okay, then came your Azure, then your Google Cloud. Okay, examples of softwares or applications which are hosted over these cloud, right? For AWS, your major example is your Netflix. Okay, the complete operation of your Netflix is operated over your AWS cloud. Okay, this is one of the prime example for your AWS. Okay, for Azure, we have all the services related to your Disney Plus. Okay, all the applications for Disney Plus is hosted over your Azure cloud. Okay, and other than that, your Microsoft resources also, because it is of Microsoft. Okay, and for Google, we have all the services for your Google Cloud. All the Google applications are hosted over your Google Cloud. So like this, these are the three major vendors. So after this thing you can choose a particular vendor and you can deep dive into specializing a particular vendor which you have a keen interest in. Then comes the cost, cloud benefits, and consideration, that why one should choose cloud. Okay, what are the advantages of your cloud computing? Okay, so here are few major advantages which are present over this particular slide, right? First thing is your high availability. Okay, high availability basically means resources available to you all the time. Okay, if I have, let's say this is my cloud vendor and it is providing me, let's say 20 resources. Okay, this particular cloud vendor have 20 resources. So if I am using this particular cloud vendor, if I am using the services provided by this particular cloud vendor, I am expecting that services, these 20 resources should be available to me 24/7. Okay, these resources or the services should be available to me all the time. Okay, this is one of the major advantage of your cloud computing. Okay, because in physical infrastructure, if in case of any hardware failure, right, chances are there that if you don't have a backup, you have to wait for that particular part, right, till you get a new device or till you replace the previous device, then only you will get again your services present on that particular device. Okay, but in cloud, if one thing goes down, right, if we talk about your hardware part, it is all up to your cloud vendor to quickly change that thing or quickly change the data center from one place to another in case of your service failure. Then we have your scalability. Okay, right now, in the previous example we learned that we were creating an organization. Okay, so let's say this is my organization right now and require, let's say, 4 virtual machines. Okay, one storage, one database, and few networking resources. Okay, let's say 3 networking resources. This is my initial requirement when I am setting up my organization. But what if after, let's say, 1 year, after 1 year my demand increases. Okay, now I need, let's say, 10 virtual machines, 2 storage servers, and 5 networking resources. Now, one of the major advantage of cloud is your scalability. I can scale my infrastructure anytime I want. Okay, if for example I'm using a VMware and right now my specification of this VMware is, let's say, 4 GB of RAM and 1 TB of space. Now, right now only I want to increase my RAM from 4 GB to, let's say, 16 GB. Okay, so in a single click I can do that thing over the cloud. But if I talk about my physical computer, I have to either go to market to purchase the RAM and then install it over my hardware part, or I have to purchase a new system. Okay, so this is again an advantage over your physical and your cloud part, that all the services present over your cloud is scalable. You can add anytime any service available over the cloud. Third thing is global reach. Okay, the big the vendor, the more the reach of that particular vendor is for your computing part. Okay, if let's say I am some place where internet is available, if internet is available I can always access my services present on my cloud vendor. Okay, so it's all depending on your internet and the vendor, that which particular vendor you are choosing the services from. Okay, so three majors: AWS, your GCP, and your Azure. You can use those clouds at any place where internet is available. Okay, then comes your elasticity. Okay, elasticity is basically provisioning and deprovisioning of resources. Okay, now with the help of your AI and ML that is already present on your cloud. Okay, let's say at this particular part, when I'm initially setting up my organization, this organization is for a e-commerce website. This organization is for a e-commerce website. Okay, so initially on a discount, normally I have these things to maintain the traffic over my website. But let's say on a sale period, okay, on a sale period where I'm offering huge discount over different products present on this particular website, my traffic of this particular website increases. Okay, traffic of this particular website increases. Cloud computing have an advantage where it can automatically add your resources or it can deprovince your resources, okay, according to the need of your system. Okay, according to your need, it can automatically add your resource and it can delete your resource. Okay, remove that particular resource from your infrastructure. So this is one of the again major advantage, because sometimes when in case of high traffic, chances are there that you have less people, okay, to maintain this particular part. So cloud has a advantage of elasticity for you, that if in case of increased traffic, it will add some resources to your structure or your setup so that you won't face any problem and your website won't go down. Then comes your fault tolerance. Okay, there are multiple data centers present. Okay, for a cloud vendor, there are lots of data center present, so that in case of fault tolerance or in case of any fault at a single data center, your services will be redirected to some different data center. Okay, and there will be a lot of distance between these two data centers, right? So that again in case of your disaster also, if this particular data center is down, your services will be redirected to this data center which is far away from this particular data center. Okay, so when we talk about your cloud, all your hardware part is maintained by your cloud vendor. Now I don't have to worry about the space, okay, renting the space, uh, adding or purchasing your hardware resource or your compute resource, okay, or your even storage or networking which are related to your hardware part. These things will be maintained by my cloud vendor. All the things related to hardware will be maintained by my cloud vendor. Okay, then we have few more advantages of your cloud, right? One is your agility. Okay, agility basically means I can configure all the resources according to my need. Okay, I don't have to worry about what all procedure or what all policies are set for a particular resource. If I'm using a resource in my setup or in my architecture, I can set rules according to my need. Okay, so that is again one of the major advantage for going to your cloud or using your cloud. Then we have your customer latency capabilities, predictive cost considerations, disaster recovery, again part of your recovery. Predictive cost considerations, there are calculators already present over your cloud. Whatever cloud vendor you are choosing, there will be some by default calculators where you can get the cost, that if let's say I'm using 4 VMs, what will be the cost of these 4 EMs that I have to pay to use these services. Okay, so I can predict the cost, and according to my capital, I can get a architecture which I want over a cloud. Okay, over Azure, you will get all the resources price on monthly basis. Okay, on monthly basis you will get the price of your resources available of Azure, and you have to pay on hourly basis. You have to pay on hourly basis. Okay, if I'm using some resource for 10 hours, I will be paying for these 10 hours only. Okay, even though I have purchased this monthly plan, but I will be paying for this 10 hours only. Last major part is your security. Okay, so security is both maintained by both your vendor also and your customer also. Okay, vendor will be responsible for maintaining your hardware security. Okay, hardware or your physical security. Other than that, what service you are using, according to that you have to maintain the security. Okay, according to the service, your customer will be maintaining the security part. Okay, and vendor part, all your physical security will be maintained by your cloud vendor. Will disaster recovery be taken care by cloud provider? Yes. Okay. I told you this particular example, right? Your cloud vendor will have multiple data centers which will be at a distance which are not prone to a similar disaster. Okay, let's say uh, this is my geographical area. Okay, these are two data centers which I have set up for my cloud. Okay, I will keep enough distance between these two things so that in case of disaster at this particular area, okay, in case of disaster as this particular area, I can always have a backup data center where I will be simply transferring the services of people who are operating over this particular data center. Okay. Regarding cybersecurity, AWS or Azure, which will be more benefit, more in learning and taking training? Both. Okay, it totally depends on your interest or what type of organization you want to work with. Okay, you can go with both your AWS and Azure also. Okay, Azure is right now in trending. Okay, because a lot of companies are moving into your Azure part, right? That is why there is a lot of talk around your Azure these days. Okay, but since AWS is a very old player, right? So again, you cannot remove that thing from the market. So both the cloud vendors are pretty good when we talk about your cyber security part. Okay, it totally depends on in what type of environment you want to work. Now let's see what all things are there other than that. Now two terms are there: operational expenditure and capital expenditure. Okay, operational, pay as you go approach. Okay, so I will be only paying for the product which I'm using. Okay, spends on product and services at needed, bill is generated immediately, no depreciation. Okay, this is very very important, that when we talk about cloud, there is no depreciation for hardware resources for your consumer. For your consumer, there is no depreciation of resources. Okay, because when we are setting up a organization, right, remember we need to purchase some devices so that people can work over here. Let's say I bought 50 laptops, okay, or 50 desktop in this particular environment so that people can work over here. Okay, but after let's say 5 years, the there will be some new technology. Okay, so for sure the cost of these desktop or laptops will be going down, right? If I bought it for let's say 80K, after 5 years the value can be around 30 to 40K, depending on the technology, current technology that we are working on. Okay, so depreciation is very very important. So in cloud there is no consumer depreciation. Okay, this is very important advantage of cloud. Okay, capital expenditure is spending your capital on your physical infrastructure. Okay, upfront spending of money on physical infrastructure. So purchasing all your hardware resources is part of your capex. Cost have a value which reduces over a period of time. Again same thing, there will be depreciation. Real time example, let's say you bought a car. Okay, today you purchased a car around 10 lakhs. Okay, after 5 years you won't have the same value of this particular car. Okay, the value will go down for let's say 5 to 6 lakh depending on how you maintain this particular car. Okay, so when we talk about your physical things, there is always depreciation. Okay, price will always go down after a particular period of time. Okay, so over cloud we have OpEx, and when we talk about your physical environment, okay, there we talk about your CapEx. By the point, no depreciation to consumer, do you recommend even a single consumer to buy a machine in cloud rather than physical laptop? See, when we are doing your training part, okay, when we are doing your let's say pen testing or developing, where you are developing some particular software or you are testing some particular software, okay, at these times you will be requiring some compute power, okay, some special compute power which will be very costly, to go for a particular physical computer with this compute power. Okay, at that time you can go for your cloud. Okay, at that time you can go for your cloud virtual machine. Okay, so whatever the need is for developing a particular software or for doing a testing over a particular machine or software, you can select the resource and you can pay, because these things are temporary. Okay, let's say I have a project and I have to create a application over 2 month period. Okay, so why to purchase a laptop for only 2 months? Okay, why to purchase a physical machine for only 2 months, right? So what I can do, I can go to cloud and get myself a VM for 2 months and I will pay for that particular part. Okay, physical computer is necessary for your day-to-day work. Okay, but when you want to do some specific task or some task which need high computing power or some special resources, at that time you can always go to cloud. Now cloud is a pay as you go model. Okay, cloud is a pay as you go model, and users only pay for the resources that they use. Okay, if I'm using 10 VMs, I will be only paying for these 10 VMs. If I'm using 2 storage servers, I will be paying for these things only. Okay, so advantages of pay as you go model: better cost prediction, provides prices for individual resources and services. Every resource or every service will have separate prices. Okay, there will be not a single price set up by vendor that for any resource you have to pay 10K only. Okay, every resource and every service will have its own price, and according to your need, according to your capital, you can select that particular service. Billing is based on actual uses. Okay, now if I bought a 10-month plan, or let's say 1 month plan, and in this 1 month I only used around 48 hours for this 1 VM. Okay, I bought a plan for 1 month, but I only used 48 hours this particular machine. So I won't be paying for this particular period. Rather, I will be paying for these 48 hours. Okay, so again, your last question, right, Jarvis, that the number of hours we are using that machines, for that only we will be paying. So again, this is cheap as compared to getting a physical machine for yourself. No wastage of resources, again with the help of your elasticity. Only the resources that are required in your structure, those things will be used. Other than that, it will be automatically removed by within your environment. Now let's talk about cloud models. Okay, that what are different cloud models which we can get for ourselves. Okay, so here we have three major models: public model, private model, and hybrid model. Other than these, we can add two more. One is your community, and other is your multi-cloud. Okay, so basically there are 5 cloud models: public, private, hybrid, community, and multi-cloud. Now let's talk about what public cloud is. Okay, by the term public, public means available to anyone. Okay, public means available to anyone. We are simply going with the terms. Private, private means available only to you, or available to selected group of individuals which have the access. Okay, then hybrid, hybrid means selected people can use this thing. Community, for a particular community. Okay, let's say we have a community for your cyber security people, so that thing will be your community part. We have a community for AWS, for Azure. Okay, so people working over AWS, over Azure, they can work over this particular model. Okay, multi-cloud model, at a single model we are using multiple clouds. Let's say public plus hybrid. Okay, that thing will become your multi-cloud. Now let's discuss what these things will mean when we talk about your cloud. Public cloud, owned and managed by a third party cloud service provider. Okay, so it will be managed by a third party cloud service provider. For example, real time, AWS managed by your Amazon, Azure managed by your Microsoft, and your GCP, Google Cloud managed by your Google. Okay, so if I'm using AWS, okay, if I'm using a VM which is hosted over AWS, okay, so I'm using, yep, I will give it, don't worry. Okay, so I'm using the services which are hosted over AWS, Azure, or GCP over my system. Okay, so these things, this VM is managed by a third party, which is your, in this case, Azure. Okay, so any cloud provider which is there in the market, any cloud provider which is there in the market is your public cloud model. Okay, provide IT resources and services to multiple organizations and general public. Okay, now what we did, we created our organization also, right? What we were trying to do, we were trying to create an organization over your, let's say, Azure. So public cloud provide IT resources and services to multiple organizations. So like this, there can be multiple organizations who can use services hosted over your Azure cloud, and your general public also, not only your organization. Let's say over this particular session we have 44 people, right? 45 people. So these 45 people can also access services and resources available over your Azure. So this is your public cloud available to anyone. Azure can be a public cloud which can be available to anyone. Access to a public network, right? So since this thing is access to a public network, so we can say security is not that great. Security is not that great because it is accessible by anyone, and we are accessing this particular part with the public network. So anyone can see around what all things we are sending, what all things we are receiving if as this Azure is compromised. Perfect for organizations with growing and fluctuating demands. Okay, if you are creating some organization which you think that maybe in few years it will rise, or maybe you have to like quit, you have to stop that particular organization, so that thing will be part of your public cloud. Gmail, is it a public cloud? Gmail is a service hosted over your private Google cloud. Okay, Gmail is a service, it is not a cloud, it is a service. Okay, we will discuss this thing, that what all services are there and how you will categorize a model and a service. Okay, so public, remember this thing, any cloud provider which is accessible by anyone, and you are accessing that particular cloud through your public network, is your public cloud model. Then we have private cloud. Private, again, something which is private to you. Okay, something which is private to you. Cloud environment created in organizations on-site data center or hosted by a third-party service provider. Okay, let's say I created an organization and I went to Azure. Okay, I went to Azure, which is a third-party organization for me, and I made a request that I want my own separate data center. Okay, my request was that I want my separate data center, and Azure is having, let's say, for example, 40 data centers all around the world. Now these 40s are accessed by your general public, but I made a request to Azure that I want my separate data center. So what Azure will do, it will create a data center which will only be available for this particular organization. Okay, it is creating a separate data center which is not available to anyone around the world. Okay, this thing will not happen to this particular data center, but it will only available to the people working at this particular organization. So that is a private cloud. Real time example, this thing happens when we talk about your government. Okay, when government want to access cloud, or where they want to set their data over a particular cloud, so what they will do, they will go to a particular specific cloud vendor and they will say that they need their own data center so that they can maintain security by themselves. Okay, here in public cloud we can say security is not that much great, but resources or the services are very high. Okay, this thing is very high, but security is not that great. Over private, since we are creating our own data center, so here resources will be limited, but security, it will be very good because it will be maintained by me. So organization is responsible for operating and maintaining the services they provide, so it means security is strong. Does not provide access to users outside of the organization. Okay, so these for people who are accessing 40 data centers, they won't be able to access this particular data center because I will here get a private network. Okay, here I will be making a connection with this data center over a private network, not over a public network, but over a private network. So again, your cloud provider can act as both private also, public also, and hybrid also, even hybrid also. Hybrid cloud combines functionality of public and private clouds to allow applications to run in the most appropriate location. So combination of your public plus private is your hybrid cloud. Now how we are combining this thing, right? So let's say from public I am getting all the services, I'm getting all the resources, and from private part I'm maintaining the security. Okay, so when I talk about security, it is specific to the data which is hosted over this particular cloud model. Okay, so data will be managed by me. Other than that, services and resources, they can be accessed through your public cloud. So this is how you can create a hybrid environment within your organization structure. Okay, this is how your Netflix is using. Okay, what Netflix is doing, all the services and resources available over your AWS, they are using it. But when it comes to your data, user data, Netflix has its own data center. Okay, a private data center just to maintain this particular data part. Okay, so Netflix again, example of your hybrid cloud environment within your AWS. Cloud model comparison, public cloud, no capital expenditure to scale up. Okay, all the services will be available to you 24/7. Kick provision and deprovision of applications. Okay, so regarding resources and services, all the things are present over your public cloud. Organization pay only what they use. Okay, so we are only here, our cost is also depending on the resource we are using over the cloud model. Private hardware must be purchased from startup and maintenance. It means your physical part or your data center part, it will be managed by your organization. Organization has complete control over resources and security. Okay, again, since we have access to the data center, so security will be very strong around this private cloud model. Organizations are responsible for hardware maintenance, update, again all the things related to your data center. Now it's up to your organization that you have to maintain these things. So private cloud is nothing example of your organizations. Okay, Any organization that you are working in, whatever structure they have, it is your private cloud only. Okay, because that thing is owned by them only. Hybrid cloud, most flexible. Organization determine where to run their applications. Again, your Netflix example. Organization controls security, compliance, or legal requirements. Okay, so anything related to your security part, organization is maintaining. Anything related to your resource part, they are getting it from your cloud vendor. Okay, other than this, we have your community model and multi-cloud model. Community, let's take an example of hospital chain. Okay, let's take an example of hospital chain. Okay, let's say there are top 10 hospitals around the world. Okay, there are top 10 major hospitals around the world. So they have their own cloud model. This is their own cloud model. What will happen? Every hospital will share data to this particular model. Okay, now if this particular hospital, let's name them A, B, C, D, if let's say A has stored some data name X over this cloud model. Okay, now there is some requirement at C model that they want to access data of X. What they will do, they will simply get access to this data from this particular cloud model. Okay, now anyone other than these 10 cannot access this particular data present over this particular cloud model. Okay, so this thing is only for a community, and in this case this thing is for your 10 hospitals which are present over the world. And multi-cloud, using multiple clouds in the same environment is your multi-cloud environment. Okay, you can think of it also. Let's say we have Google. This is simply a random example, not real-time example. We have Google, we have Microsoft, we have Facebook or your Meta. Okay, let's say these three decided to share data with each other. Yes, what they can do, they can create a cloud environment where they will be sharing data. Now if Microsoft want to access some data which is provided by a Google, it can come to this data center and it can access the data, and this data will only be available to these three organizations only. Okay, other than that, let's say your Amazon. Okay, if Amazon tries to get access to this data, this thing will not happen. It is available to this particular community only, Google, Microsoft, and Facebook. Why I am contributor role? Yep, you can say that. Software as a service, IaaS, PaaS. Very good. Okay, what examples you guys were telling were examples of your resources. Okay, whatever examples you gave, your application security, virtual machine storage, sharing, streaming, MIA, AI, IoT, all these things, email, these are the resources present over the cloud. Okay, these are your resources present over your cloud. But when we talk about the services, there are three major services when we talk about your cloud computing. Infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. These are the three major services. Okay, these are your major services. Any service other than these three, okay, any service other than these three, let's say security as a service, your function as a service, container as a service, your, we can say, identity as a service, right? IDAS. These things are byproduct of these three. Okay, whenever you get a question around cloud services, you will name these three only. Okay, other than these, whatever service you are getting, these are the byproducts of these three only. Okay, so these three your function, container, these things we will discuss in the later part. Right now let's discuss the major ones: your infrastructure, platform, and storage. Okay, so when we were setting up our organization, right, let's go through that example only. Okay, when we were setting up our organization, is it is service for every account holder on cloud platform or on demand or requirement. These services can be for any account holder, right? If I'm creating an account, I can go for platform. If you are creating an account, you can go for software as a service. Okay, so totally depending on the user. Okay, now let's discuss how we were creating our organization, right? We were needing some storage, we were needing your networking part. Okay, basic stuff. Computing part. Okay, your servers. Okay, now over here, after this thing, what all things I will be needing? I will be needing one operating system. Okay, it can be of anyone. I will be needing real-time environment to work on this particular application. Then I will be needing some applications. Okay, where I will be doing my major work on this particular operating system. Then this application will be creating some data for me. Okay, this is the complete chain. If I talk about how a organization can be created. Okay, first we need to gather these three things. Then we have to set some things over these three things, right? Over your storage servers, also your different servers, also you will be setting some real-time environment or operating system so that you can communicate with each other. Okay, then over there you will be running some major applications depending on what type of machine is present and the role of your user, right? And at last, data generated at every level. This is how the chain works. Okay, now when we talk about infrastructure as a service, okay, infrastructure means getting a infrastructure. Okay, getting a virtual infrastructure for you. Over here you can do anything you want. Okay, so your computing part, networking part, storage part, and server part, these things are your virtual infrastructure. Okay, so when you are going for infrastructure as a service, these things will be provided to you by the cloud vendor. So let's see it over here. Infrastructure as a service, build IT infrastructure. Okay, infrastructure by renting servers, virtual machines, storage, networks, and operating systems from a cloud provider as pay as you go model. Okay, so basically what we are doing, we are renting your servers, virtual machines, storage, operating system from your cloud provider depending on our capital. Okay, so all the things present over your physical environment, if we are getting these things, if we are renting these things, that is your infrastructure as a service. Okay, if we are renting things which are present over your physical environment, that is infrastructure as a service. So all the hardware part you are accessing through virtual environment via cloud. Then we have platform as a service. Okay, platform as a service means provide on demand platform. Okay, provides on demand platform and runtime environment for developing, testing, deploying software applications without focusing on managing underlying infrastructure. Okay, so this particular platform is for developers or testers. Okay, so whatever is underlying the infrastructure, I don't care. Okay, all I want is I need to run, let's say, VMware. Okay, I need to run this VMware. Now, whether it is running on Linux, whether it is running on, let's say, your Windows or your Mac OS, I don't care about the operating system. All I need is this application should run on for me. Okay. So when you get a platform where you can do anything, that is platform as a service. Okay. So this particular platform is mostly for your developers and testers for developing anything, testing anything, or deploying some software applications. Okay. Without any focusing on underlying infrastructure. Okay. So you can see it over here. Everything is connected to each other. Within infrastructure as a service, after that you will get platform as a service. So when we are going through that, we don't care about these three things: storage, networking, and data center. Now we care about operating system and your tools or applications which you will be requiring. Okay. Now you can see the chain. One more thing or one more layer will be added, which will be your software as a service, where only you will be worrying about your data or operating a particular application. Okay. So software as a service, user connect to and use applications over the internet, typically on subscription basis. For example, Office 365 email calendar. Okay. So here we are simply using the services present over here. Now here comes the example of your Gmail. Okay. Here comes the example of Gmail. Okay. Whenever we operate Gmail, data is not stored on our device. It means whatever, let's say I got 40 mails today, but data is not getting stored over my system. So somewhere this particular data is storing. Okay. So here comes your storage and server part. Okay. How I'm getting these mail over my system and how I'm able to send mails from my system, okay, to a particular user from this storage, that will be part of your networking and security. Okay. Where these storage servers, your networking, your different networking tools, security tools are stored, that will be part of your data center. Okay. So right now I don't have any idea about these two things. I only know how I can use Gmail, how I can send and receive mail, and my mails are getting stored over somewhere. Okay. Even at the back end, that where this particular operating system, this particular application is stored in what operating system, I have zero idea. Okay. Tools, database management, business analytics, these things again I have zero idea about. Okay. All I'm doing is downloading this particular application from Play Store or Apple Store, and I'm using, simply using this thing. Okay. So when you're using software which is hosted over a cloud, all the services are hosted over the cloud of that particular software. That is software as a service. Okay. Now if we talk about the examples, any Google service, any Google service where your data is not getting stored over your device, that is part of your software as a service. Your Gmail, your Google Maps. Okay. All these things are part of your software as a service. Even your calendar, your Google Calendar. Okay. Now if we talk about examples of platform as a service, Azure, AWS. Okay. So what these things are doing, these things are giving you a platform where you can run different resources. Okay. According to your choice, you can run any resource. So we are getting a platform from these particular part. Okay. Your Google App Engine also example of your platform as a service. Okay. Example of infrastructure as a service, your OneDrive. Okay. So OneDrive, you are only getting a space, but what all data, what all things you are storing over OneDrive totally depends on you. Okay. They gave you, Microsoft gave you infrastructure that, okay, you can use this particular storage. Now, according to your need, you can do anything over there. Okay. Your rack space also is example of this one. So when we compare these models, infrastructure as a service, most flexible cloud service, user configure and manage the hardware for your application. Okay, so all the things other than the hardware part is managed and configured by your user. RTD administrators use this particular part. Platform as a service focus on application development. So here we are giving a platform. So come to this platform, do whatever you want to do. Platform management is handled by your cloud provider. Software developers use it, or your testers also. Software testers also, they also use this particular platform. Software as a service, pay as you go pricing model, right? So you might have seen that Gmail is free. Okay, at a certain extent, at a certain extent this particular service is free, but after that when you want to get more storage, at that time you have to pay for that particular. Users pay for the software they use on a subscription basis. Okay, and users use it. So these are the three things. Now when we compare these things, that how security will be managed over these platforms. Okay, because security is also a very important factor. That who will manage security over your infrastructure, platform, and a software as a service. So let's have a look at it over here. Here you can see four things are there. On premises, which is your private cloud, infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, software as a service. Okay, so you can see these things over here, that how we when we created the chain, this is similar to that chain only, right? Storage, networking, compute, virtual machines, operating system, runtime, applications, and data access. So these three things will be part of your infrastructure. You can see red color is in for infrastructure. Compute, networking, and storage. These three things will be managed by your cloud vendor. Okay. Other than these, all the things will be managed by your user. Over on premises, everything is managed by your user. We don't have any third party to manage. But when you go for infrastructure as a service, other than computing, networking, storage, we can add your server. Okay. These three things will be managed by your cloud vendor when you are going for infrastructure as a service. When we go for platform as a service, so tell your runtime environment, everything will be managed by your cloud vendor. Okay, because we only want that our application should run on this platform. We don't care what is there at the back end. Our goal is to run this application. Okay, so till here, anything beyond that is managed by your cloud vendor. Anything after that, your applications and data access, it is managed by your user. And software as a service, other than data and access, everything is managed by your cloud vendor. Again, think of it as Gmail only. Over Gmail, you can access your data, right, with your credentials, and you can manage your data. But you are not responsible for the updates of that particular software. Okay, what updates you are getting, you are not responsible for the security part. Okay, so all these things are responsible by our Google Cloud vendor. Okay, other than your data and access, everything is managed by your Google. You can only access that service if you have the subscription or a proper credential and whatever data is present on that particular software. Okay, all you need is you need to find a way that how your application can be deployed over a cloud environment. Okay, you don't care about the backend environment, so you will be simply asking for your from your cloud vendor that you need a platform according to the configuration of this particular app, so that you can run this particular application. So you will be going for platform as a service. Which cloud services has better security in your opinion? It totally depends on your uses. Okay, so when we are going for, let's say, a particular application which we are using in day-to-day life, so at that time we are not worried about maintaining security. But within our organization, if I am hosting a software. Okay, within my organization, if I'm hosting some particular software, so at that time security becomes very very important. So at that time I will go with infrastructure as a service. But as a normal user, if I'm going for a particular software, so at that time I will go for software as a service. So it totally depends on your needs, that what type of needs or what type of requirements you have, and according to that you can work on all the models. Okay, so these five major things we'll be talking about under your container technology. First one is your virtualization. Okay, so we have two major things: virtual machines and your containers. Okay, so there is always somewhat similarity among your virtual machines and container. There is only one major difference between your virtual machines and your containers. Okay, that we will discuss right once we learn what is your virtual machine and what is your container. Now virtual machine or your virtualization. Okay, so concept here is your virtualization. This thing we will be learning today, right? From after that all the things we will learn tomorrow. So virtualization is the ability to run multiple operating systems. Okay, it is a ability to run multiple operating system on a single physical system. Okay, we are running multiple operating system on a single operating system with the help of hypervisor. With the help of hypervisor, what I'm doing, I'm running multiple operating system on a single operating system. Okay, now this hypervisor will be responsible between the hardware resources present on this particular single operating system and these multiple operating system, right? So all the communication between these two things will be managed by your hypervisor. This is virtualization for you. Real-time example, let me show you one hypervisor, which is your VMware. Okay, so okay, this is your real-time hypervisor, VMware. Here what you can do, you can see at the left side, I have multiple operating system. Okay, I have Kali Linux, I have mobile machine, troll machine, right? Windows XP also. I can run all these things at a single go. Okay, so let's say I start Kali Linux. So it is running. Let me start this particular mobile one. Okay, so what is happening on my physical machine? I'm running more than one operating system. That is your virtualization. And how I'm doing this thing? I'm doing this thing with the help of a hypervisor, in our case, which is VMware Workstation. Okay, so you can say this is mobile interface which I can use, and I'm using it on my physical machine. This is your Linux environment, right? It's taking time to load, right? This is your Linux environment. So I can even run Windows XP. Right now you can see I'm using Windows 11, but on Windows 11 with the help of VMware Workstation, I'm able to run three different operating systems. That is your virtualization. Now let's see how this thing is happening. Okay, so here we have your basic infrastructure, your physical infrastructure or your hardware infrastructure. Okay, in this you will have some RAM, storage, your SSD, okay, and anything related to your CPU. Okay, your RAM, SSD, anything related to your CPU that is present on my physical infrastructure of my machine. Over this I have my Windows 11. Over this I have my Windows 11. In this Windows 11 I have installed a hypervisor, which is your VMware. Okay, over this particular Windows 11, what I did, I installed a hypervisor, which is your VMware. Now, with the help of this VMware, I'm able to run three different operating systems. One was your Android, one was your Linux, and one was your Windows XP. Okay, all these three things were using the resources of my physical machine. Okay, so let's say I have 16 GB of RAM, okay, and around 1 TB space. Now I have given 512 MB of RAM to this particular machine. Okay, for Linux I have given 2 GB, and for Windows XP I have given 1 GB. And space, let's say this is using 10 MB, this is using 20 MB, and let's say this one is using 10 GB. Okay, so these resources are actually part of my physical machine. Okay, these three things are actually part of my physical infrastructure, but I'm able to use these things over different machines with the help of hypervisor, which is your VMware. Okay, so VMware is making sure the communication between my physical infrastructure and virtual operating systems should be there. Job of your hypervisor is to make sure no machines or no operating systems are communicating within itself. Okay, so whatever I'm doing in my Android operating system, it will not affect my other operating systems, and it will also not affect my host operating system, which is your Windows 11. Okay, it is it has been given a separate environment, or you can say it has a sandbox environment. Each operating system will have its own sandbox environment, so whatever you are doing, it will be separated within its own environment. This is your virtualization, that you are using multiple operating system over your single host operating system. BlueStack emulator is example without help of hypervisor. Over there you will find some policies, or there will be some set of rules which will make sure that these things are not communicating within itself. Okay, so over there hypervisor is also present. The single operating system, is it the OS of the cloud itself? It's not the OS of cloud, it is the operating system, or you can say the infrastructure which has been allotted to you at a particular data center. Okay, so for example, let's say this is the data center. Okay, now this data center will have different racks, right? Let's say this is the rack of your computing part. Okay, now if let's say I created an account and I opted for a VM, what will happen? This particular space will be allocated to me. Okay, this particular rack will be allocated to me. Now if some new user who wants to create a VM, this particular rack will be allocated to that particular user. So on a single server, different resources has been divided, and it has been allotted to different virtual machines. Okay, now what you will do, you have an option try Azure for free. Click on this. Here what will happen, you will get a $200 credit. Okay, so you have to provide your credit card detail and you will get $200 for a month. Now you can use this $200, and we will learn tomorrow that how you can use this thing, how you can like smartly use your $200 credit. Simply create a free account over here, enter your credit card details, and you will get a $200 for a month. Here you can see different things available on this particular service, right? Your Azure service, AI, ML, compute, containers, hybrid, multi-cloud, and IoTs. 200 plus products. Okay, so there are 200 plus products present on your Azure portal. So we will see tomorrow. We will see what all Azure is all about. And this is how your Azure portal will look like once you register, right? So here at the left side, you will see different resources available over here. Cost management billing, cost management plus billing, right? Microsoft Defender for cloud, right? Different things are there. Cost management app service. At right side, you will get all the info regarding your account, right? Here is your notification panel, right? This is your shell for your cloud, right? Your Azure cloud shell.